Willpower. We all want more of it, and we think that if we just had enough, that our bank accounts would be full, our abs would be rock hard, our relationships would be healthy, and everything about our lives would be better. But we just can't seem to get enough of this mysterious willpower substance. So what is willpower? Well, the definition that I'll be using in this video is that willpower is the strength of will to resist temptation in the moment in order to better contribute to your long-term aspirations and goals and values. This is different from discipline, for example, in that discipline is more of an array of habits that you construct over time in order to get yourself to positively act in ways that are going to contribute to your values and your goals, rather than willpower being something you exercise when your activities, your actions that contribute to those goals are under attack, they're under fire. Willpower is what you use when you pick up your phone to do something useful, like send an email, and then you see that TikTok app and you want to click on it, you want to start watching videos. And willpower, if you exercise it properly, will keep you on track to do what you wanted to do with your phone, which is check that email or send that email. Ego depletion is a theory about willpower that's been popular since the 1990s. And it's the idea that the more we use our willpower, the less we have in reserve, that it's a limited resource, and that we can exhaust it by exercising it, and that we need to replenish that resource by sleeping, resting, eating, and just generally recharging our strength and our energy. And this is quite universally accepted. I think you would be hard-pressed to find someone who would speak up against this idea if it was brought up in casual discussion. And that's how much it has pervaded our culture. And quite a few studies, scientific studies, have confirmed this hypothesis, or have at least supported this hypothesis. There was one study in particular where a group of children were presented with a table laden with cookies and with radishes. And one group of these children were allowed to eat the cookies, and the other group in the experiment was allowed to eat the radishes, or they had to eat the radishes. And then each group of children was presented with a puzzle to solve. Now, unbeknownst to them, this puzzle was actually impossible to solve. But what the researchers were actually looking for is how long would each child spend trying to solve the puzzle before giving up. And they found that those who had been allowed to eat the cookies were spending about twice as long trying to solve this impossible puzzle as the children who had to eat the radishes and resist the cookies. This confirmed the hypothesis that they used up their willpower eating the radish instead of eating the cookie, and therefore they had less willpower in reserve to keep them going on this hard task. And throughout the years, more studies like this were also confirming this hypothesis, and it became part of the cultural knowledge and something that many people just accepted as true. But it was discovered that there was a publication bias in effect, where studies that were disproving this hypothesis, that were showing opposite results, weren't being published. Upon further study, what was discovered is that this is generally only true about someone, that they have a limited reserve of willpower that gets exhausted through use, if they believe that this is true. If they believe that no matter how tired they are, that they can still have an unlimited supply of willpower to make the choices that are in alignment with their values or their goals, then they will be able to do that. And that will be true for them. I find stuff like this fascinating, just how much of our reality and what's true about ourselves and human nature, human character, is actually only true because we believe it to be true. And it's rather empowering if you think about it, just the amount of power and control we have over our own reality based on our beliefs. And what we believe to be true can become true. And it's also a very dangerous thing. If you believe self-limiting beliefs, then you will be limited. It's like Henry Ford said, both the man who believes that he can and the man who believes that he can't are both probably right. Metabolically, this makes sense. The brain is an organ, it's not a muscle. It uses the same amount of calories whether you're zoning out on the couch or solving differential math equations. And things like this really make me wonder how many of the things that we take to be self-evident are in fact myths perpetuated by our own belief in it and our society's own belief in it. It's like my mother says, don't believe everything that you think. So ego depletion is the lie that we've all been told about willpower, whether you were told it explicitly in an actual discussion of the theory of ego depletion or implicitly, just based on how everyone believes the underlying substance of that theory to be true. And I know calling it a lie is a bit of a stretch because I don't believe that there was anyone intentionally deceiving or misleading the population about the nature of willpower. It was an honest mistake that was perpetuated by belief and by bias in the scientific literature and in societal knowledge. But I also want to talk today about how you can go about living an amazing, disciplined life where you're acting in accordance with your values and goals frequently without having to rely on willpower very often at all. How do we do this? Well, willpower, as I said before, is something that you use when you're tempted towards something that's more appealing in the moment, more distracting in the moment, than working on or keeping your focus on whatever it is that you are doing in order to further your goals, in order to get closer to your aspirations and stick to your values. Well, what if working on your goals, doing whatever you needed to do to get closer to that aspiration, was actually more stimulating, more rewarding, more joyous, more gratifying than scrolling TikTok or engaging in whatever other distraction you had available to you? That's the power of learning to celebrate and to enjoy every step of your journey toward your aspirations. And that's what we learn about in BJ Fogg's book, Tiny Habits. If you haven't watched my video on Tiny Habits recommending that book, you should go back and watch it now. Or better yet, just buy the book and read it for yourself. It's the single best text that I've ever found on understanding and changing our own behaviors and our own habits. And the most important concept from that book, in my opinion, is the concept of celebration, and that we change our actions and our behaviors by feeling good, not by feeling bad. You can form a habit very strongly if every time you do that action that becomes a habit, you feel great. If you feel shitty, or you feel numb, or you feel bored every time you do the thing, even if you repeat it 100 times, it's not going to form a very strong habit. But if you do it 5 times or 10 times, and every time you do it, you feel amazing, that's going to form a stronger habit than pure repetition alone. Habit forming is more about the emotion you're feeling than it is about the number of repetitions. If you can feel amazing every time you choose to take a step forward that's in alignment with your aspirations and with your values, then you're going to form those healthy habits much more effectively, and you won't need to use willpower nearly as often to actually do those things. You'll want to do those things. It would take more willpower not to work on your business or not to write that paper for school, because you have linked those activities so effectively to your feeling of joy and self-satisfaction and pride. And with the skills that we learn from Tiny Habits, we can actually control these emotions within ourselves. We can learn to celebrate every little step that we want to nurture into a habit. And by doing so, we gain so much more power over our lives than simply by increasing the strength of our willpower alone. But if you do both of these things, if you come to believe and to know that your willpower is not a limited resource and that no matter how tired you are, you can still make the right decisions for yourself. But at the same time, you're also bonding your behaviors to the joy that you can experience when working on your values, when pursuing your aspirations, then, my friends, you're going to be a rocket ship and your momentum will be nearly unstoppable. You can also intentionally choose to pursue your aspirations in ways that are more enjoyable, that are more fun. This also removes the need for willpower in so many circumstances. Take exercise and fitness. Let's say you have your exercise goals You really want to get fit. You want to lose 10 pounds. You want to gain some muscle. You want to feel better when you're looking at yourself in the mirror. And you've been struggling to actually make it to the gym and lift weights 5 days a week. Well, what if instead you took away the requirement that you actually go to the gym 5 days a week, and you take a look at the aspiration itself and ask yourself, how else could I get there in ways that would be more enjoyable, more fun, and more sustainable for me? Maybe instead of going to the gym and lifting, I instead join a soccer league, a soccer team, or another sport, and play that instead. And that way I have a team around me. It's a lot more fun, it's a lot more dynamic. I'm not just repeating the same motions again and again. I'm competing, and that's a lot more fun for me. And I get to hang out with friends, and we go out afterwards, and we form bonds, and that's something that I can do much more sustainably. Who's to say that that's a worse way to get fit, get in shape, and feel good about yourself? Choose to reach your aspirations in ways that are fun for yourself, and don't belittle those steps that you take. Don't say to yourself, well, yeah, I played soccer 3 times this week, and that was good, but I didn't get to the gym the other 2 or 3 days a week, so I failed. Instead, focus on your victories and celebrate those victories and feel good every step of the way, because you're not just doing this exercise routine for this week. What you're doing is cultivating a habit of moving your body, a habit of exercising. And if every time you exercise, you feel bad about yourself because you didn't do enough, because you didn't go often enough this week, then you're not going to want to keep doing it, because on an emotional, deep level, you know that every time you do it, you feel bad about yourself. Every time you think about it, you feel bad about yourself. But instead, if you celebrate every positive step and you feel good about every positive step, then on a deep emotional level, you'll want to keep doing more, because you know that every time you do it and every time you think about it, you feel good. And that's how habits are formed. And that's how you can construct your life in a way that you need hardly any willpower. This technique of taking your aspiration and figuring out how to make every step toward that aspiration more fun and more enjoyable is what I've been doing with YouTube. I'm getting out into nature, playing disc golf, making some more interesting shots, and just making it more fun for myself so that I do it more often and provide more value to the people who are watching this channel. I'm on the Oregon coast this weekend, by the way, which is why you get the change of scenery. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, like and subscribe for more, and comment down below about what willpower challenges or habit challenges you are trying to overcome right now in your life. See you in the next one.